I do have a feather boa, but it's hidden in the closet somewhere or in one of the drawers, and I just don't want to pull it out. And I don't have the exact right glasses, but I have heart glasses instead, which is good because part of this video is going to involve me talking about Don Quixote do Flamingo. And his glasses are obviously part of his signature outfit, along with his very pink feathered boa coat thing. So, yeah. So these are going to come off. This is going to be another one of the One Piece couples videos, obviously. And this one's going to be talking about unhealthy love. And as you can see, I pulled out my Harley Quinn shirt, or one of my several Harley Quinn shirts. I've got like 2 or 3. I did have one that had Joker and Harley on it, but it's a little too small at this point, unfortunately. Or it's buried somewhere in the closet. So I figured there's a siren going off in the background somewhere in our neighborhood. I'm sorry. Fire engine, I think. But I went with the Harley shirt today because obviously Harley is one of the characters that is very much known for having been in this extremely abusive and twisted relationship with the Joker, and of course DC Comics. And Doflamingo's code name to a degree is Joker, so kind of a little bit of an equation there. But of course, anyone that's at least somewhat familiar with Harley knows that she went through this very abusive relationship with the Joker, where she was very devoted to him, but he tried to kill her multiple times, and he would just use her at times. Sometimes, depending on the comic, depending on the writer, or depending on the show or whatever, he was a bit more affectionate towards her at times. And in some cases, for Joker and Harley, there was like actual love there, but it wasn't very often that was the case when it came to the two of them. But currently in the comics, Harley is in a relationship with Poison Ivy, if I remember correctly. She's also been in several other relationships, but at the moment, I believe her most stable one at the moment is with Poison Ivy. But back to the actual, purpose of this video. This video is about couples that are very unhealthy, in the fact that at least, that either, and basically it's like one is very abusive, one half of the couple is very abusive toward the other half of the couple. And the first one on this list is Princess, Viola and Don Quixote do Flamingo. And yeah, during the course of the Dressrosa arc, via the flashback that we get involving when the Don Quixote family arrive, when the pirates arrive at Dressrosa, and Doflamingo is using his parasite thread to make Riku and the bunch of the other guards and everything attack the people and everything, and then he comes in and claims to have stopped it at whatever point in time and everything. We know that Viola makes this deal with him in order to protect her father. If I work for you, you won't kill my father. And I don't know if at this point in time, if she knows that her sister has already been killed or is about to be killed, and that her niece is basically going to spend the next several years running around and kind of having to live in hiding, being watched over by via Tin Soldier, who is her father, but nobody knows that because they just see him as a Tin Soldier, and nobody remembers Kyros because reasons. Reasons that I went over in a different video, in 3 other videos. Sad reasons, but reasons nonetheless. But Viola makes this deal with Doflamingo. It was just I have a power that can be very useful to you. Her, her glare fruit that allows her to, see things very far away and everything, and also kind of see inside of people and everything. So she makes this deal with him, and he, he's like, okay, fine, you can work for me. You'll be a member of the family, the Don Quixote family, and your father will live. He'll be at the at the Coliseum. Well, he'll I don't remember if it's he was at the Coliseum right away or if he ended up there later on. Don't know exactly 100% of what what he was doing, what Riku was doing during those 10 years in that time frame. But at some point he ended up at the Coliseum. Um, but during this time frame, Viola is a very active part of the family, part of the Don Quixote family. She finds different threats for them, helps neutralize them because she's doing this because she has to protect her, her father. And then later on, when Rebecca is captured and taken and put inside of the Coliseum, she kind of has to do it to help defend Rebecca as well. So it's just like, oh, I'll make sure that Rebecca doesn't get hurt too badly during any of the fights, so she doesn't die and she doesn't get maimed or anything like that. And of course, Viola wants to do this. She, of course, knows about all the horrible, dark secrets that's going on in Dressrosa. I don't know if she knows exactly that the toys are people, that the toys are people that were turned into toys via Sugar's power, but she knows there's like something going on with that. She knows that, they use the toys for labor and that then they get scrapped. And she knows that, there's the whole, hidden port underneath Dressrosa that's, with Doflamingo and his illegal weapons trades and everything. And, all this other stuff. And like, she's been watching the Tontadas and she's been like watching all of this stuff for a very long time, for the past 10 years. But also in that time frame, via something that we learn via a conversation she has with Doflamingo, but also in SBS, one of the things is that near the climax of the story, climax of the battle with Doflamingo and Luffy, Viola kind of confronts Doflamingo during the about the 10-minute time frame that like Luffy needs to like recharge his haki and everything, and is being like run around by the Coliseum members. And Viola and him kind of have this confrontation. And Viola and Doflamingo have this confrontation. And she's like, it was like, as a former member of the Doflamingo family, or as the Don Quixote family, it is my job to help take you down. I helped you do all of this other stuff. I let you use my powers to hurt my people and to hurt my family. And I'm not going to let you do that anymore. And I'm going to take you down myself. And, either, one of us is not walking away from this fight. And, she's prepared to kill him and probably die in the process. She knows, because she's seen, like, what Doflamingo is capable of over the course of the last 10 years. She's well aware of what he's capable of. But she still tries to fight against him. And, I mean, like, I'm sure it's also him, like, humoring her to a degree. Because, she calls him Dofi and he calls her Violet. And one of the things is, throughout the course of that fight, he ends up, pinning her, and Rebecca shows up because she's trying to help her aunt. And, he tries to, he puts the parasite thread on Rebecca and is about to use Rebecca to kill, Viola in order to just scar, Rebecca for life. And of course, Luffy shows up at the last possible second because of Law and, switching them around, and Law and, they save Rebecca and Viola, of course. And I went over that in the Aunts and Uncles video that I did a little bit more in detail. But one of the things that someone asked Oda in an XBS is that Dofi called her, Doflamingo called her Viola or Violet, and she called him Dofi. And Oda, in his answer to this, was Dressrosa is a very passionate country, and, they had a very passionate relationship. And I know a lot of other people have gone over this. There's fan art of this and everything of Doflamingo and Viola as a couple. In, like, some alternate universe, if, like, Viola was twisted, then she would have been more than happy to help Doflamingo. Or if Doflamingo was actually a better person, she would have been fine with that. They would be an okay couple, in my opinion. But one of the things is that it's basically implied that, yeah, during those 10 years, and no one's going to deny that Viola is very beautiful. Sanji fell for the woman extremely quickly, not that I blame him, but she's very beautiful, she's very smart, and, she was this very integral part of Doflamingo's plan. So, she probably has been waiting for 10 years to try to figure out a time when she can, like, stab him in the back. And part of that may also involve sleeping and other activities that she probably did with Doflamingo, which, I don't know. I don't know what exactly that would imply or entail in regards to Doflamingo. I kind of don't want to know what Doflamingo's like in a romantic relationship, but as long as you stay on his good side, I'm sure he's fine with, like, giving you flowers or giving you chocolates or like, maybe dancing with her at some point in time. I don't know. But clearly that time frame was also this very stressful and probably to a degree not a very happy time for Viola, obviously, because it would have been like my father, I don't know where my father is, or when she did find her father at some point, he's taken to the Coliseum. Same thing with her niece. She, knows that the Tin Soldier has been, keeping an eye on Rebecca, but she has no idea. Her sister's dead, her kingdom's, slowly being turned into what appears to be a happy place on the outside, but very much is not underneath. And, she wants to find a way to stop this, so that's why she ends up letting, telling Sanji that, oh no, you can, here's the plan and everything like that. That's why she helps Sanji and everything, and ends up helping the Straw Hats, of course, throughout the course of the arc, which is just quite interesting to watch. And she kind of gets to start breaking away from Doflamingo, and she's like, okay, now I'm actually finally going to get to do what I wanted to do for the past 10 years and like stand up to you and try to, stop you from hurting my country and hurting my father and my niece and my sister. And I failed on those accounts, but I'm going to do what I can now to make up for it. And, out of all the other members of the family, the only other one that I would think would be anywhere near his types would be either, Monette, but she was off with Caesar at one point in time. And then, Baby Five, but I don't think Doflamingo would end up wanting to court Baby Five because he knew her as a small child, and I don't know if he would want to do that. Also, I think he takes joy in whenever Baby Five gets a fiance, and then he kills the fiance, and then she tries to kill him. I think he just finds some joy in that, which is very disturbing in regards to that. But that's basically what we have for Doflamingo and Viola. So moving on to the other very unhealthy couple that is involved with the other very unhealthy couple at the moment that I wanted to go over. And that is Vinsmoke Judge and Sora or Sola. And so Sanji's parents. The parents of Sanji and his 4 siblings. Ichiji, Ninji, Yonji, Sanji, and of course Reiju. And yeah, so as we learn throughout the course of the Germa arc, Sanji is this prince from the Germa kingdom, and him, he ran away from the kingdom at some point in time when he was a child, and that's when he ended up on the orbit, and with, Zeph later on, and then at the Baratie, where of course we meet him in the story. And we learn, of course, via flashbacks throughout part of the arc, is that Sanji's parent, Sanji's mother, Sola, Judge had used her basically as an experiment. He performed surgeries on her during the time frame that she was pregnant with the 4 boys in order to try to take away the boys' emotions, take away anything that would make them seem human, anything that Judge considered negative emotions. And he did that experiment and everything, and she, in her attempt to try to stop it, she drinks poison or whatever it is. It's hopefully supposed to help counteract the chemicals that are inside of her, and it makes her very sick. And to a degree it does work because it makes Sanji not have it makes Sanji still be able to have his emotions, but the other 4, the other 3 don't have their emotions. So it was like a 1 in 4 chance. And it happened to be Sanji because, of course, those things down the line are, of course, what result in Sanji being Sanji, is that he has his, full range of emotions and everything like that. But what I just kind of picture in regards to their relationship is that, at some point, some 30 some years ago or something like that, that Judge was part of Mads with Vegapunk and, Queen and, Caesar Clown and whoever else, if there's any other scientists that were involved in Mads. I don't know. We'll find out down the line. Scientists, doctors, whatever. And at some point in that time frame, Mads disbanded, Vegapunk went to go work for the government, Queen ended up working for Kaido somewhere in that time frame, and then Judge ended up going, and he was already this descendant of the Germa kingdom, of the Vinsmoke family, that had reigned over the North. The North Blue at one point for 66 days, so many hundreds of years ago, or whatever the case was. And he wants, of course, to, reclaim that glory that his ancestors had. And in order to do that, he's like, okay, I'm going to take everything that I learned with the lineage factor and with my cloning, and I'm going to make all of these clone soldiers. And of course he does. But then he's also like, I'm going to make myself perfect weapons out of my own children. Some point in that time frame, he found Sora and he married her. Now, we don't know exactly if it was maybe she was a princess from another kingdom and he married her because she had royal blood and he wanted to, make sure that his children had, 100% royal blood, I guess. Or maybe she was already a citizen of the Germa kingdom, or what was the remnants of the Germa kingdom at the time. And maybe she just happened to be someone that caught his eye. Maybe she was smart as well. Maybe she was a scientist too at some point in time. But she didn't have the same views as he did, but he decided to court her. And then once he, courted her, once they were married, they had Reiju. I think Reiju is 20. I want to say Reiju is 25 or 26. She's within that range because she's a little bit older than Sanji and his brothers, and Sanji is currently 21 years old. So she's 24 to 26, but I don't remember exactly. But they have Reiju. And then Judge does his experiments on Reiju. And I'm pretty sure Sora is not happy about this by any means. But because of the fact that, he probably has guards on her 24/7 and he's the one that's in charge of everything. Yeah, she's the queen consort, but she doesn't really have probably any form of political power to a degree. She has she's like a figurehead, literally. And, Judge then, experiments on Reiju, and when he's happy with the result of his experiments on her, that, oh, okay, yeah, I can give the children, I can, manipulate the children's genetics and give myself this stuff. And then he then takes Sora again, and, she gets pregnant again, whether or not that was he did experimentation on the embryos and then put them inside of her and then did multiple surgeries while she was pregnant, or did multiple other experiments while she was pregnant in order to make sure that the boys all had this, certain chemicals or whatever in them, heightened lineage factors, whatever he wanted to put in them to result in the, the sparking, the electric, the, wench powers, I don't know, and then, Sanji possibly having the fire powers later on. And during that time frame, I highly doubt Sora had a whole lot of control over what was going on. Her diet was probably extremely regulated. She probably wasn't allowed to do anything strenuous, obviously, because he doesn't want something to happen to his perfect creations. And we do find out, we do see a flashback scene where she's just no, you can't do that. You can't take the emotions away from the children, then they won't have their hearts. They won't be human anymore. And Judge is just I don't care about that. As long as they have, if they're monsters, that's fine. As long as, they have this ultimate power, and as long as they obey me, then I don't care. I don't care whether or not they have their emotions. And of course, Sora at some point, either out of a rash decision or something like that, she grabbed a poison off the counter, or grabbed whatever it was off the counter and drank that. And then that resulted in her long-term illness that she had that did eventually kill her. But it also resulted in, at the very least, initially when the four boys were born, they did not appear, they all appeared to be what Judge wanted them to be, but then Sanji ended up changing. And Judge attributes that to, whatever the chemical was that Sola drank. And so Ichiji, Niji, and Yonji, and then Reiju, of course, all have their powers and they all have their exoskeletons, but Sanji seems to become just regular human. And he doesn't have the excess power, but he also has his emotions. all of his emotions: fear, sadness, sympathy, whatever else that Judge would see as weaknesses. And Sanji, of course, once he's deemed a failure, he continues to go and like visit his mother and, brings her food and everything wherever she is. It's like she's not in the actual like main part of the castle where like him and his father and his siblings are, because he has to like travel, like deal with like rabid dogs on his way to go and find his mother. And she's just like, she fawns over him. She's like, oh yes, the food is delicious, and like all this other stuff that she's, very kind and very encouraging of Sanji, and of course that helps him. And of course, we saw also in the flashbacks that she's also very rather close with Reiju as well. Whereas Ichiji, Ninji, and Yonji don't seem to have gone and visited their mother at all during the time frame between when they were born and when she died. They don't really seem to go and visit her at all. They're just more interested in their father. Then again, all three boys are basically 100% conditioned to only do what Judge says, if they're given a direct order or something like that. Whereas Reiju at least has some form of free will, and of course Sanji doesn't have to listen to Judge at all because he doesn't have any of that. Because that wasn't like drilled into him or whatever. But Reiju still has it to a degree, and the three boys, the three other boys definitely still have it. But we have no idea if like Judge went and visited Sora at any point in time while she was sick. He probably did, because there was something about her that made him want to have her as his queen. Whereas if he didn't actually care about her, unless he just wanted to legitimize all of his children as like, oh, none of them are bastard children, they all have, they're the rightful heirs to the Germa kingdom and blah blah blah, like whatever point in time. I mean, we don't know if by rights, if like the kingdom would go to Reiji because she's the firstborn, if it would go to Niji because he's the firstborn son. I don't know. Reiju is daughter 0, so I would kind of imply that, son 1 is going to be the one that takes over if, he's dead, if Judge dies. Or like maybe they'll fight it out and like Reiju might just like outsmart her brothers, because no offense, she seems to be the smartest out of all of them. Out of the other 3. But what of course we see happen throughout the course of just the flashbacks is Sora at some point does die via her illness, and like Judge basically blames Sanji for that, because it's just like, oh, she drank that stuff and like you're the result of that, so I didn't even get all 4 of my perfect experiments out of it, so you're the one to blame for all of this. And of course Sanji is extremely heartbroken, of course, when his mother dies, as is Reiju. As I said, Ichiji, Ninji, and Yonji, I don't know. We don't ever really get an answer as to whether or not they cared about whether or not their mother died, which is just sad. I mean, well, they wouldn't have been sad about it, but we don't even know if like they even cared that their mother was alive in the first place. Sanji obviously did, but we don't know about them. But there must have been something about Sora that made Judge want her. Maybe there was something in her DNA that he really liked, in her lineage factor, that was maybe something that he found very useful, that was very compatible with his. All of the kids all have like the same kind of, the hair that goes over one eye, and the same kind of look that Sora does. Whereas we don't really, they have like they have like Judge's curly eyebrows and everything, but with with all the kids all have like the hair that goes one way or the other that looks a lot like Sora. And Sanji is of course the only one with blonde hair, but from the little bits that we've seen of Judge, I think he has blonde hair as well, and so Sanji might just get that from both of his parents, whereas the other 4 have pink, blue, red, and green hair, which is okay. But was there something about Sola that made Judge be like, oh, she must be the one that I have as my queen for whatever reason? Or was it like he married her, like took like his initial invading force and like invaded her kingdom, and then like took her as his bride, to take the money from from her kingdom after he conquered it? Was like maybe like was like her kingdom like one of the first ones that like they conquered, in the North Blue, and then he took her as his bride. I don't know. We don't know anything else about Sora's past. We do know that like Sora also shares the same name with the Sora Knight of the Sea that was, part of the cartoon, the comic strip that, a bunch of the characters grew up reading that's based about the Jerma and then, like, the Sora Warrior of the Sea that was like this brave marine that would fight the Jerma and everything. That, Hawkins and Drake and Law grew up reading, which is hilarious. And then it took Sanji a while it took Law a while to figure out that, oh, Sanji is a Vinsmoke. Yeah, that adds up. Not that he actually spent a huge amount of time around Sanji, but still. And it's not like Sanji walks around bragging that he's a prince because he despises that he's a prince. But, we see that with Judge and Sora, that there's this whole, she did not agree with what he was doing to the children. I highly doubt she even agreed with, like, the clone experimentations, but she didn't have much of a choice in the matter based on, the little bits that we see, and any active rebellion that she probably tried resulted in either her being punished or possibly someone she cared about being punished, for all we know. So again, two very unhealthy relationships that we have between Viola and Doflamingo and Judge and Sora. I was trying to think if there were any other, just like off the top of my head, those types of relationships. I mean, like, I already talked about Hogback and Sindri way back. That was about them, like, the horrors of love, that, like, the basically the fact that, like, Hogback basically tortures Sindri for a fair amount of time during the little bits that we see during the Thriller Bark arc. But I was trying to think if there were any other ones that I could think of that are I can't think of any other ones that are like this type of abusive type of a relationship. I mean, we don't know anything about the relationship between, like, Kaido and Yamato's mother, between Kaido's wife, Yamato's mother at the moment. But maybe that'll be something that gets revealed. For context, I'm recording this at the beginning of February, so maybe there'll be something that's revealed in one of the next couple of chapters about Yamato's mother. We don't know. We'll find out. But I don't necessarily, I don't know. We may not ever learn anything else about Yamato's mother, or we may not learn anything else until, like, we get, like, a, big Kaido flashback, or maybe even a big Yamato flashback, or maybe she explains what's going on. Or maybe it'll be a weird roundabout thing, and it'll just be like, Yamato just sits down in the corner and she's like, so, who's your mom? I don't know. Might have been the answer. I don't know. I know Kaido's my biological dad, but I don't know who my mom is. She died. She's gone. Whatever the case may be, but we have no idea. So that's what I have for this. I thank you very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you have a nice rest of your day, and just kind of, I guess, cautionary tale in regards to these guys, in regards to be very, try to be more cautious about what type of a relationship you're in. Abusive relationships are not fun. Verbally abusive is not good. Physically abusive is not good. So just kind of, be wary of those. And if you're in that type of a relationship, whether, whatever side of the relationship you're on, if you realize you have these problems, or if you are the one that is, having this experience happen to you, please get help. Please very much get help. And please get help for your partner. So thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye.
Stop it! These are my children. If you rob them of their hearts, they won't even be human anymore. Then let them be monsters. As long as they can win wars, I will give only my kids the ultimate power.